never believe people when they say that brain development stops at 6 or 10 or 16 or 30, right? The brain is neuroplastic. You can train the brain at any point of time, even when you are 80 years old. And the aspect of neuroplasticity is very, very key to the fact of hope and possibilities that exist in human development itself, right? Because it helps you stop giving excuses.
Welcome to Will Talks podcast. Today I have Raaji Naveen with me. Raaji has over 20 years of experience in education. She's been running a school, and off late she started this new amazing initiative called Beyond 8. She works in the capacity of the co-founder of Beyond 8, essentially based out of Chennai, but they're also now in Bangalore. We are here hosted at the very beautiful Beyond 8 Home Center in Koramangala in Bangalore. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have this conversation. We're going to be unpacking things about what parents need to know about education, what students need to know, what teachers need to know, and so many things are going to flow out of Raaji today. Thank you so much, Raaji, for being here and hosting us at your beautiful center in Bangalore.
Thank you so much, Willie. Literally a pleasure to be here. Absolutely fantastic to have a lovely conversation with you. I know it's not going to be lacking any sort of excitement or enthusiasm, knowing your passion towards education too. So looking forward to it.
Brilliant. What is this place and why do you call it a home center? Like the last time I went to a home center, I bought a sofa set. So I just want to understand what's Beyond 8 Home Center?
Beyond 8 Home Center is a space where children feel like they are at home because that's the safest space for a child. When we think about education, we have to really think about how our children feel even before we think about anything else. Do they feel safe? Do they feel protected? Do they feel cared for? Is the first job of what education or a learning institution should do. And that's why a home center.
But when you say safe, I'm getting the feeling that you mean more than just physical safety.
Absolutely.
Is that right? Do you think I'm on the right way? And if you think it's more than physical safety, what safety are we talking about?
Physical, emotional, social, psychological, multiple ways of safety, because I think a school is generally a place where there can be fear. Fear of failure, fear of performance, fear of not finishing your homework and not having a great excuse for it, fear of being pulled up in class, fear of being asked a question that you don't know of, fear of a teacher that you don't feel comfortable with. There is fear of your peers in case there is bullying. So there is just so much fear as well, which is a very integral part of schooling. And we hope that all of those are dissolved in a space like a home center where you are cared for and you feel safe.
I want to talk more about this fear because the list of fears that you put out, I had some reactions in my body. I didn't feel very good. I don't think fear is good for learning now, is it?
Absolutely, Willie. And fear is not a space where our body can actually learn as well, right? Fear will actually invoke a response of flight or fright. It's not going to make you feel joyous about the thing that you're going to do. But hundreds of years, I think we have literally made parents scared of education, and schools made children feel scared of education in schools, and even teachers. They feel scared of what is going to happen inside a classroom. How am I going to make this child do well? What will happen if the child doesn't score well? How will the parents react? How will the school authorities react? So it's become a very integral part in the design itself. And you're absolutely right. Fear will not foster learning.
I mean, I really want to amplify this idea of fear again. The reason is because when you ask a teacher, so, madam, are you scared of anything? And she's like, no, I'm not scared. And when you ask a parent, are you scared of something? No, I'm not scared. When you ask a child saying, are you scared of anything? No, I'm not scared. When you ask a principal, are you scared of something? They're like, absolutely not. And yet I feel that it's the elephant in the room. What do you think about that? Like, have we just learned to live with that?
You're right. We have learned to live with it. That's the saddest part, right? I'm just thinking of the story of Emperor's New Clothes, where everybody is talking about how beautiful clothes that the emperor is wearing. But then there is one small voice that says that I don't think the emperor is wearing any clothes. So we are all sort of, dancing to this tune of it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to be scared of your teachers. It's okay to be scared of your examinations. It's okay to feel scared, and it's okay to do a lot of hard work in all the things that you don't like at all to prove to somebody that you're actually good. So all of these, it just goes back to the emperor's new clothes analogy, right? Where just because it has been done, just because it was normal, doesn't mean it's right.
Mm. I love that analogy of the emperor's new clothes, because it was the voice of reason. It was the voice of a young child who, oblivious to the social construct, not bothering about what does the other person want to hear versus saying what he or she saw, right? And I think that is a very powerful story. And are you then trying to create a system of education that is alleviating fear and bringing children into their true light and essence?
It is that initiative, it is that intent to listen to the child's voice, listen to the learner's voice, because if change will happen, it is not going to happen because of you and me, it is because of that child's voice that will bring about the change. If you think about the alpha generation learners who are sitting inside our classrooms, they are going to have a say in everything that you are going to talk about. They are having their parents who are going to support them in that journey. So we are seeing that shift. We are seeing that shift from parenting styles where the parent told the child, no, you need to do this so that you can get that, to this millennial parenting where parents are actually very planned, very prepared, very purposeful. They are very democratic. They listen to their children. And hence, their expectation of schooling is also completely different. And that's where the change will happen. And our intent is to sort of capture the new changes that we are seeing.
So, does that mean the expectations my mother had of the school that she sent me to is dramatically very different from the expectations I have from the school I send my own children to?
Absolutely. You already know that schools will not prepare your child for life. You already know that as a millennial parent, right? You know that you will actually make sacrifices. You will actually not try to do it all. You will say that I will give up my job because I want to get this right for my child. So all of those days of, trying to balance it all, trying to be this super mom, I will say mom, Willie, because even today, as we see a lot of progress happening, the voices of the dads are much lesser. They are more emotionally connected with the children. They are doing a lot with the children, but it's still the mom who is the primary caregiver. And these moms are going to put their careers in the back seat and actually will look at how they work with their children, how they look at it with purpose, they look at it with planning, they will look at it with a sense of professionalism, they will look online for support, they will look online to understand what is the best parenting style I should have. So the parents who are entering your school and the children who are going to be sitting in your classes are changing, and they're asking for more.
And you're seeing this all in 20 years, because normally they say for society to change, it takes so many lifetimes and generations. You're actually seeing this change happen in less than 10-15 years. Like, you're seeing different parents coming in.
Our parents about 10 years ago or 12 years ago are very different from what we see in the last 5 to 6 years. And that makes me believe that all of these researches are actually having value to it, because that research is only a research unless you actually experience it in your day to day interactions. And parents are talking about how the child should be given freedom, how the child should be given flexibility. They are reorganizing their entire life to be able to, work with the passion of the child. So, and they are demanding that of the learning spaces too. So I am seeing that shift from the parent who would say, okay, you need to listen to your teacher, we need to get done with the degree, then we will go to college and then we'll get a job, to parents who are actually saying, I know he or she is not just going to get a job because of going to college. I know he's not going to become great or successful because of getting 100 on 100 in a subject. They are going to put happiness above success for their children. That's a fundamental shift that we are seeing.
From what you say, one thing is troubling me. And for long, all of us have heard in educational psychology, we've heard that high expectations leads to high performance. When we set high bar for a child or for anybody, they tend to reach those bars, right? That level of standard that we've set. If a parent now feels that I know this school is not going to do everything required for my child, what then is the motivation for a school principal or a school leader or even a teacher for that matter to perform at her highest level of teaching? Because she feels that anyway, there's no expectation from me. And while you reflect on that, one example comes to my mind. I was talking to one of my very respected mentors, Mr. Sanjay Parekh, and I was asking him about an ad, and he said, we put an ad saying that we'll help you crack the JEE in 3 months. And I was like, sir, why are you putting an ad out like that? That doesn't make sense. And he was like, even parents know you cannot crack in 3 months. But if I say you take 4 years, nobody will join my program. you know? So you see what I'm getting at. If parents don't have expectations from school, or if they have happiness expectations from school, will every school eventually just evolve and morph into an event management company as opposed to a place where serious learning is? What do you feel? What are your thoughts around that?
Fantastic question. And it is the most commonly misinterpreted thought, only because we have been drilled this concept into our heads for decades and generations, right? We think that doing hard work, being challenged to do the things that we don't like, is something that will help us reach the summit of success. Actually, when somebody does like what they are doing, they will be in a sense of flow, right? Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. So when you're loving something, when you love something with passion, then it's not hard work, it's joyous work, and you challenge yourself, you become the competitor for yourself, and you're pursuing excellence rather than competition. When we set bars, right, we are actually telling somebody to do better than someone else. That's like a ladder which is not going to head anywhere. Whereas I would like to look at learning as a jungle gym. There is so much curiosity, there is so much interest, there has to be so much room for children to actually explore, see what they like, be excited by the possibilities that exist. And it is our duty to excite them, make them feel curious, feed that curiosity into the way we interact with them, so that they are exploring this beautiful jungle gym. There will be some parts in which they will crawl, there will be some parts in which they have to put, really a long step to get ahead, but they will do it with joy because they have sought it. Learning will not happen if they don't seek. And all of this statement of, you need to sort of, work hard to get ahead is totally wrong. You need to work hard. It has to be expanded. You need to work hard in the things that you love to get ahead of your own status, right? It's not about you're trying to kill somebody to get ahead. You're not trying to, do better. And that's where the complete spirit of collaboration is killed in schools, right? Because you're constantly trying to do better than your friend. What are you going to get by doing better than your friend? You're trying to do the wrong things rightly, right? Like systems thinker Russell Ackoff would say, if you're going to do all of these wrong things, you're trying to do better, I'll get a good bench, I will get a great blackboard, I will have these powderless chalks, maybe I'll get a smart board, but then you're not even seeing what the child is seeking. That's why it will bring laziness. And today also, children are lazy. If you're trying to force them to do the things that you don't like, you will see them become lazy. You will see them become disenthralled. And you will see them also voice against what you're doing. That's what teachers should be scared of. The minute you're going to actually appreciate them, acknowledge them, push them where they would like to be pushed, they will appreciate you and be inspired by you.
This is phenomenal point there. And that brings me to one experience I had in the UK. When I was talking to one of the teachers there, and I said, I come from India, and we have 50 children in a classroom, and sometimes 60 children in a classroom. And I was so enthralled and impressed by all the amazing equipment they had in the classroom, the resources they had in their classroom. They had only 25 children or 20 children in the class. And I was like, oh, you're doing all this so well because you have only 20. I have 60, right? And this teacher, this gentleman told me something which I remember so vividly. He said, you guys back in India and Asia have something that we don't have. What is that? He said, that is the reverence and the respect that children bestow on their teachers in India. If a teacher walks in and does something wrong, children correct only if the child is in first, second, or third standard. After that, the child is realized, don't correct the teacher. Right? If the teacher is wrong, the child forgives and says, no, it's okay. Teacher. The point I'm trying to make is, as you said, the day that one child decides to disagree with their teacher, we had it, right? And also, I feel from what you're saying is standardized testing doesn't seem to be fit for all. And I think, what do you think about standardized testing? And by standardized testing, I would say all these competitive examinations and board exams and things.
They are not fit for anyone. It's not about fit for most or fit for some. They are not fit for anyone because there is no test that has been discovered till date that can actually decide what human capability is, what humans are capable of. I can have a typewriting test to choose the best secretary, right? I may choose the person who has the best typing skills. But what about the skills and the attitude, the emotion and the capacity that the job of a secretary involves, right? I was having a conversation with our learners about safe space policy and about all these acts that are in place, and how do we, and what does it matter? How does it really impact us in a classroom, right? In a classroom setting or a school setting. At the end of it, if I had asked them to write an examination of all the 15 things that I have spoken about, every single child will get 15 on 15 if I've been a good teacher and I'm only looking at knowledge, right? But what about actions? How will you integrate that knowledge into your day-to-day life setting? An examination cannot and will not, and it's not possible. That it just means that we are trying to really misunderstand what human capability is. And I'll also add on one point. I think standardized tests exist because we are lazy. Government does not want to build enough schools or institutions or colleges so that education is accessible for all. The job providers, right, they don't want to have elaborate processes in which they actually get to know the candidate to choose them. Colleges don't have the bandwidth to actually look at every child and see if that child can actually come into their college. So all of the laziness that we see around us is nicely, beautifully, sort of
Packaged.
packaged, and then it is just moved towards children They don't have a voice. They are going to go into that fear mode, right? We spoke about fear. Parents are going to fear that, oh my God, if my child doesn't get into JEE, what will happen? Like you rightly said, Willie, you were talking about how your mentor was
One of my
saying
friends,
that
yeah.
we should, we should have this, your child will crack
Yeah.
JEE
In
3
3 months.
months, right? How many seats are there in IIT, and what is the percentage of children who are going to go there? It's not even a national issue, right? Such a minuscule number of people. It is for the elite in terms of, learning, academics, and all of that. There is so much research that is done that cracking the JEE is completely different from surviving in IIT, is completely different from being successful in life. And yet, we do the wrong things rightly, Willie. We think that these are all the things that we need to, tell our parents, our children, put fear into the minds of people so that they can dance to the tunes of what the industry and what the government and what the people around us want.
I'm reminded of a story that happened to me about 10 years ago. I went for a event in Mumbai, which was the Walk for Autism event. Uh, and after we walked for about a mile with parents who had autistic children, we stopped at a garden, and everyone stood in a circle, and the the convener asked a question like, now that you know that your child is autistic, because many parents know later, right? How do you feel, and what are your experience been? And there was this one couple, I still remember very vividly, a husband wife couple. They came up and they said, the day I realized my son is autistic, in the most uncanny way, it was the happiest day of my life. And everyone was surprised. And he said the reason is because they found out when he was around 4 or 5, I think 5. He said for 4 5 years I was wondering, usko doctor banao ki engineer banao. Should I, how will he get into college? I have to, all that fear that you're talking about, people live it on a day-to-day basis. That insecurity, that anxiety, that all these things push people into depression. And he said, the day I found out, no, he's autistic, I left those dreams, and now I'm creating more colorful, vivid, enriching experiences for my child. And I was like, what do you feel hearing that from that parent?
Feel very touched, first of all. Feel very empathetic towards what that parent has gone through. And I'm able to resonate why the parent responded in that way, because sometimes we want the problem to become so huge that we start to think differently. Unless it pains us so much that we change. So we have had in these 2 decades, we have seen parents sometimes who have pushed their children too much, and then when it has not worked, have changed course. And I hats off to those parents, because they are actually in a corrective action journey, right? They're in a learning journey where they're realizing that doing this is not giving the impact that they have sought. So I'll constantly ask this question: are our actions causing the impact that we wish to see around us? If they have not caused it, go back to the drawing board. Don't try to add. Our problem with problem solving is that we keep trying to add. We have never thought of dissolving a problem. We have never thought of removing something from a system to actually solve a problem. We keep thinking that more is good, और इसको करो. अच्छा ये नहीं हो रहा है, ब्लैक बोर्ड ठीक नहीं है, तो उसको smart boards में बना दो, right? So it's we are wanting to actually change blackboards into smart boards. And I have to tell you this beautiful conversation which I had with one of our students. And I asked him, hey, you know what? All of these parents, sometimes when they come for admissions, they're asking this question: why don't you have blackboards? And why don't you have smart boards, right? And this child said, Auntie, you can tell them we have smart children. We don't need smart boards. So it is, the children are already, and this conversation I had about 10 years ago. So it's not something that is very latest and new. The voices were always there. Today, that voice is becoming louder because the number of voices are growing, and the alpha generation and the millennial parenting is actually forcing us to think differently. And I hope that it makes us do differently by our children too.
This is brilliant because what comes to mind is this idea that Mark Twain put out saying the majority is not always right.
Yeah.
Mostly it's wrong, right? So, from that perspective, a lot of these parents who come to you or who are reevaluating their decisions and choices, worried about the sunk cost in terms of, oh, so my child has been in school 5 years now. How can I change? Maybe the problem is not in the school, but in in my child only. Otherwise, how did that one other kid do better? There's always evidence to show. When you stack rate, you'll always get a roll, a rank 1, 2, and 3 by default. So I think parents need to find that courage, right? As you said, because the other thing that comes to mind is, it is so beautiful what he said. He said people always want to add, they don't want to remove. I'll tell you a joke that comes to my mind. Not really a joke, but every time I go to an education conference, there are 50 stalls trying to sell the school principal something. And the school principal is also looking at buying something and adding to the school. Completely obvious of the fact that we only have 9 periods in the school. And if you are going to bring something in, you have to take something out. And some principals tell me that, oh, no, we are able to add. We are able to add. We are able to add. How are you able to add if school time is the same? That's my first point. My second point is, if you're able to add, you actually took something out. If you took that out so easily, you probably even take something new that easily, right? So I feel that is such an amazing concept that parents need to understand, that more need not be more, and sometimes less is more, right?
I'll respond to it in 2 parts. The first part being early adopters. Early adopters are the ones who are actually feeling the pain or realizing the futility of the choices that were made for them, right? And they are the ones seeking out new options. They are trying to look at new avenues. They are trying to see how we can do well by our children. So the early adopter is the parent who is going to first start that dance of shifting from a normal conventional schooling mentality to an alternative philosophy, right? That is one part of the concept. Now, the other one, when you're talking about the less is more, you were talking about, what are we adding, right? We are adding programs. We are also adding agony to the teacher. We are also adding confusion in the minds of the children. We are adding just expenditure to the organization. And what we are not realizing is, in that addition, there are some things that are automatically being removed without our knowledge. Because it's impossible to fit something in those 8 hours, right? In those 9 periods. So without your realizing, very beautifully things are being taken away, which you're not realizing. So finally, you're being made a fool of yourself, because you're thinking that by adding, you're trying to achieve different things. I'll talk a little bit about the timetable, Billy. When a school says that we do this, that, and more, the best way to look at it is not
what
their
schools
visions.
say today, right?
Yeah.
They say 25 things. Critical thinking,
Correct.
this, that.
Absolutely. 21st century
It's like
skills.
keywords in a Google ad.
Absolutely.
Every school does everything.
And when they say that,
you were
right?
saying look at the vision. Sorry.
No, don't look at the vision and mission, because the vision is going to have all of these dictionary ka words, right? It's going to have all the words that will be in the dictionary, that will be your Google catchwords, AdWords, whatever it is. I'll say just look at their timetable. That's all. Simple. Look at their calendar, look at their timetable. If you see English, physics, chemistry, biology, math, and some other subject, and you see Mondays, it's always the same. And then Tuesday is also a repeat of the same, and Wednesday is a repeat of the same. And then the school is talking about creative thinking. I will say start with the timetable. So these are all hacks that I would like, people who really want to make different choices to, and people are trying to evaluate. They're trying to see if this is what is good. Am I able to see this? Will my child be happy here? So try to see the school's timetable, try to see their calendar. Don't do anything else. And then go to the school and, of course, talk to the teachers, talk to the principal, talk to the children, and doodh ka doodh, pani ka pani, right?
Yeah, I don't feel alone after this conversation. The reason is, 7 years ago, I was selected to be part of a cohort of a school leadership institute. And the executive director there asked everybody, what is the soul of a school? And, suddenly everybody just morphed into philosophers. And when it came to me, I said, timetable. And I got yelled at because he was like, are you making a mockery of what you're saying? I'm like, timetable, dude. Timetable. If you want to know if somebody, whether somebody's working well, open their diary, right? And you will know. And I absolutely love what you said. And just hearing that from you coming out that way, just to me, just tells me that you're such an educator at heart. You're such a school administrator, come school leader, and you have the child at the center because for you, it's not a input based game. It's an output based game. And also for me, it kind of feels like um, you are looking at individualization because everything you are speaking, you I feel like a parent when I listen to you, and I want that for my child, and I feel that you want to individualize it. So here's one question that is coming to my mind. You don't have to answer it. Just say it comes to my mind. When is it really too late? And I'll give you some more context. Every early educator in this country says 95% of the brain development happens by 5. Damn, my daughter is 6. What am I going to do now? Is it too late? Then there's other research which says, okay, in fifth, sixth standard, when a child is 8, 9, and 10, there is a growth spurt. 90% of the brain gets developed at that time. And then there is this other idea, all the teenage time. They say, at puberty, 95% of the brain get developed at the time. Only after you get married, the wife realizes, no, brains don't get developed even by 28. Right? When is it too late? Is there any idea of being too late? And as a personal testimony, I would like to tell you, I had a miserable school experience, the school that I went to as a student. And I changed my school in 2 different times. And in 8th standard, I entered a school. 8th standard, I entered a school. You won't believe it. I walked out of my existing school in that uniform, got into a train, went to another place, met the principal in 8th standard, and secured my seat. Voice choice and agency right there. I don't know how it happened, but it happened. And that school in 3 years changed my life, completely changed my life, completely changed my life. So I, as a personal testimony is, I know 8th, 9th, 10th standard, pivotal years of one's journey. But I want to know from you, is it ever too late or what's the right time for parents as well as children to really make amends?
I can't tell you how happy I am that you asked this question. This is something extremely close to my heart. And I would like to say it's never, ever too late. Never believe people when they say that brain development stops at 6 or 10 or 16 or 30, right? The brain is neuroplastic. You can train the brain at any point of time, even when you are 80 years old. And mind you, we both are going to live 100 years. Okay, we are not going to be, retiring at 50 and then dying at 60. We are going to be living 100 years. And the aspect of neuroplasticity is very, very key to the fact of hope and possibilities that exist in human development itself, right? Because it helps you stop giving excuses and say that this child, you have not done anything until the age of 5. Now I don't know what to do. And then you sort of, say this is who you are and that's what is going to be, right? It helps you give excuses. These are the theories that give you excuses and increase the laziness factor, which I alluded to before, right? We are very happy to be lazy. So if you believe in the fact that the brain is neuroplastic, and if you believe in adult development theory, adults can develop. Adults can develop from the socializing mind to the authoring mind to the transformative mind if they will it, if they wish for it, if they seek it. Similar to how learning happens, right? If I seek it, I will get there. And unless I increase the possibilities and the opportunities for such experiences over an extended period of time, I can very well beautifully say that by 6 years, all of this is happening. Sorry, boss. That's it. Your child is going to just have this curve, right? In my schooling experience, I've had varied experiences, right, Willie? Growing in Dombivli and Kalyan area in Bombay, up to 12th grade, there were always these two students in my class who would get the first rank and second rank. No matter what you do, you burn midnight oil, you sit with them, you learn with them, you mimic them, imitate them, burn yourself. I just couldn't crack it, okay? I just couldn't. And I wanted to do well, right? And competition. Let's talk about that later. But when I joined engineering, and in the first year, I flunked 7 subjects. It's the general story of most engineering students, I will hope and wish for. So 7 out of 8 subjects I failed. And in my second year engineering, I found friends. I found peers who motivated me, who looked at me as a human, who sort of, worked with me. And these were the peers, and we worked with each other. After that, there was no looking back. So like you rightly said, for you, it was that 8th grade and it was that school. For me, it was second year engineering, and maybe I was at the bottom pit, right? I was in that total 7 on 8. What do you even do, right? And friends changed me. And then it has been, after that, there has been no looking back. And I think we must never ever think that we have done enough. We must never give up. And we need to continue being creative. Many times people will say that, give one rap. My dad used to give me one rap, ekdam, kana khali, one. And everything will set. And people, very, very well-minded people will say that worked for us. Look at these children, they are spoiled. It was never, ever right to rap one child. It was never ever right to beat a child. It was never right to yell or scream at a child, right? Just because it was normal doesn't mean it was right. It was not right then, it's not right today. And that's the beauty of learning. When we believe positive mindset can change children, can change adults, can change seniors, and we see that constantly happening. But we want to believe the normal. We want to believe what was
the safety
the
numbers,
normal.
no?
Yeah.
But from your personal experience, where other students changed your life or changed the trajectory of your life, is a solid testimony to peer learning, social learning. And since you have greatly benefited from that and you're able to see the link and the connection, how do you bring that into beyond 8's timetable or learning design? Or do you even bring that in?
So first of all, there is enough amount of vertical group interactions. There is enough amount of opportunity for children from different grades and also the same grade, to interact with each other based on their likes and dislikes. Right? And there is room in the schedule for it. First of all, we have a 2-day online model, and then there is a 3-day, physical interaction model. Unless you make time, so the 2-day hybrid model actually opens up so many possibilities for vertical interaction for children to pursue passions. Just yesterday there was a group that is working on a music internship program, and the 6 learners from Chennai and Bangalore are collaborating online, and they have a system where they are going to teach each other the topics that they have chosen for the music internship It's a gamified way of trying to say how I trade my knowledge with you. You have chosen this topic, I know it, I'm going to share it with you. And I think it goes back to the days of those engineering days where if I was good in a subject, I will, share that with you. You're good in some other subject, you share it with me. It always worked then. It works even now. Just that because we can't design a program, we are limited by our capability, by our imagination, and of course, the laziness. We are not doing it for our children. So it's very easy to do it if your intent is right, if your intent is there.
So I see that in a normal school, maybe these benefits, these fringe benefits come by chance, but in Beyond Aid, it's more by design, by intention. And since you're catering to that, then I think there's way more opportunity for children to expand and find their own things. But really, from what I understand, Beyond Aid is like kids in 8th standard, ninth, or just ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th, which parents find to be the most critical, most crucial, most high impact, most high leverage kind of, most high risk kind of years in a school life. Eventually, the epitome of school, at least in a school setting. Uh, why is this not an experiment? And let me tell you why I'm saying that. I spoke to an educational researcher, and I said, there is this alternate school, and they're doing this and they're doing that, and they work with children's likes and interests, and they work individually. They coach a child, they mentor the child, they do all these kind of things. They don't do standardized testing. It's so experimental. And this guy tells me that is not experimental. Factory schooling is the experiment, because that has been happening only 200 years. The school that we know, in large institutional schools, that is a 100-year, 150-year phenomenon, predominantly designed for the industrial age, to provide skilled workforce for the industrial age. Somebody who does one thing and does that for the rest of his life at the cheapest possible way. But before that, it was the Guru Siksha Parampara. It was what India truly had, like the first university and things like that. And that just shifted in me something, that everything that you're talking about, and even we are buying the idea that this is alternative education. I think this is education. This is not an experiment. So tell me a little bit more. What would a parent want to know? What would a parent want to hear? And speak from the space of a parent yourself. That 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and how this can be the runway for a happy child living a life of purpose.
I think physiologically, grade 9 is the perfect timing for a child to actually start expressing what they like and what they don't. While there is even a 3-month-old child tells you if she likes you or not, but at that, the physiologically, the body is ready to actually look at experiences outside and choose. And hence, if you don't come in at that point and work with your child, you're actually going to limit their future, right? And I think it will be the alpha generation that will force you to do this. I don't think people will do it on their own. It will be the alpha generation that will force you to think differently and act differently. And I think what we are doing is, because of constantly looking at how children are learning, what are they asking for, constantly keeping our ears close to them, we are able to see this future in the present, right? So it will not be an experiment until it becomes something that people ask for, want more for, and your existence will stop just because you're not catering for it. So it's only time. We are, like I said, innovating in this space. Like you rightly said, also looking at, bringing back old practices which should have never been thrown away, succumbing to the industrial revolution. But at the same time, I think the future does look good. I would like to say that the future looks good. The future looks promising, and it's promising because our children are going to ask for different things, and the parents will start asking differently, and then the schools will have to change, and we will have to bend those ways. We will have to mend our ways.
You know, something tells me that knowingly we are doing something that is not very correct. Because someone told me in a podcast earlier that he went up to his father and he said, I don't know what to do after 12th. And father said, okay, no problem. You join engineering and then you think what to do. So it's almost like our education system is designed to be a parking lot. You don't know what to do, it's okay. You finish engineering. You still don't know what to do. You do MBA. You still don't know what to do. We have more courses for you, right? So it's almost like prying on that fact that people don't know what to do, and yet you say that ninth standard, a child knows or has an idea of what he wants to do. Imagine if parents, a teacher, a dedicated, inspired, motivated school leader like yourself, they come together and say, hey, you have an idea of what you want to do? Let's work on that. Let's see if you still have an idea or if you still like that, 3 years later, right? That would be so amazing because there's so less lost time and things happen. How do you do that at beyond 8? And by the way, do kids get like a degree? Do they get a certification? There are a lot of these questions that people have. So why don't you just take some time to explain all these parameters?
A few lines of thought. One is by intent, like I said, and a very good program design. So, this is what we want for our children. How will the timetable look like? How will the calendar look like? How will the teachers look like? How will the day look like? And what are the things we will teach in those times? How will the interactions be? And how will the interpersonal relationships develop in that space? So, program design is exceptionally important. It's not given. It's not given enough time. We keep talking about something very beautiful as a vision, and then we talk about how do you teach inside a classroom. But in Tamil, they say nadula konja pakkam illa. It means that there are a few pages missing in the book. And that's where that program design comes in, right? That program design that sort of takes that vision and brings it to the classroom practices. We are able to do that only because we have a exceptional team that understands that there is something called as a program design that connects the vision to the in-person interactions that we have. That's one aspect of it. Secondly, we are Cambridge Associate. We are MSA CESS certified. We have our children going into NIOS. MSA CESS is one route in which our children need not take the competitive examinations but can be graded over a period of time. We do have one or two learners in our ecosystem who are choosing that, but most of the other learners choose between Cambridge and NIOS and our facilitators. So, in our program design, there is that academic pathway. There is an academic pathway where the facilitator has to wear a pedagogical hat to work with the learners, look at learning how to learn skills, and try to prepare them for the exams that you need to have. There is also a transformative experiences that looks at, that's a pathway where we look at 21st century skill building, critical thinking, and creative reasoning, which is done out of the confines of the textbook and the curriculum. And then there is a utagogical pathway. Utagogy is the learner determined way of learning, right? So the utagogical pathway begins with this dream mapping exercise with our families that are enrolling. And in that, we understand the strengths, the stretches, the aspirations. According to that, a mentor is assigned, various industry expert interactions or internships or future of work sessions and college pathways guidelines are aligned through that interest. So you can see these parallel tracks where there is academics, there is transformative experiences, and then there is a utagogical pathway which completely focuses on the child and is very individualized and personalized. When you bring all of that together with intent and good design, then at least you have taken that first step. Does it work for every child 100%? Maybe not, because every child is in that journey of exploration. Some people need more, some people need less time, and they are also bringing experiences from their homes, right? So we look at program design very strongly to be able to combine the vision to the in-person interactions, understand where the pedagogical comes in, acknowledge it only that much. We say that, okay, fine, this is what you have got. If it's a subject that you love and that is what is going to get to your utagogical dream, if it's going to get to the college pathway, then you do exceptionally well in it. We are going to push you, nudge you, guide you, mentor you, collaborate with you, see whatever we can do. But at the same time, there is something that you just need to do because of the draconian rules that are, imposed by different institutions, where you have to do so many subjects, you have to do so many this and that. If that is the case, and all you're doing it for is to get an exit, it's like a jail out card, then we don't let your self worth reduce because of not doing well in that subject. So the intent in which the interactions happen with the learner is completely different. We don't let your self worth reduce just because you didn't do in something which you don't like, but we goad you, we push you and nudge you in the things that you're really good at, and we ensure that you're also making those connections from what you like to where you want to be. Again, will they know it in 9th grade? No. Will they know it in 10th grade? Maybe not. Will they know it in 11th grade? Maybe. Will they know it at the end of 12th grade? Maybe not. But at least they would have thought about it. If you think about it, at least you will know what you don't want. If you're not going to think about it, you will have to do an engineering as a backup plan so that you can think about it in the next 4 years when you're trying to do Thevenin and Norton and you don't know what it means even.
So I want to bring out a common notion that a lot of teachers and traditional schools have probably communicated to parents, knowingly or unknowingly. I've heard many times that when parents approach schools and they say the child is not doing very well in school, traditional examinations, they say, isko NIOS mein bitha do. Send him to NIOS, or send her to NIOS, or send her to open schooling, or send her to some alternative schooling. Thus implying that maybe these boards are not for children who have a strong academic prowess. What is your response? Is there a myth? Would you like to dispel that myth? What is your take on it? Because, by the way, NIOS is the largest open schooling system in the world, right? What do you think?
You need to dissolve the problem. First of all, are you asking the right questions? The biggest thing about problem solving is, are you asking the right questions? If the program design is very learner determined and you decide the curriculum based on the learner's interests and their future aspirations and the time that they have and the passions that they have, then the choice of the curriculum becomes very easy. But if you limit it to, I'm going to pick NIOS only because I have this disability, then you're completely deconstructing the notion of an alternative curriculum choice as well. And you're absolutely right. We do a lot of education with parents to help them understand that we actually have some forward-looking parents in our HLC school where they are saying that my child is passionate about this and hence I would like her to do NIOS, right? The minute those voices increase, the idea of what NIOS is for will shift. There are children who are saying that, Auntie, I would like to do this subject in NIOS because you're not offering that in the Cambridge curriculum because I want to explore what it is, right? When those possibilities are provided to children, then the myth of what NIOS is about becomes busted. But at the same time, it has to happen on ground. Every conversation, the perception, you need to beat the perception, and that can be beaten only by the actions that you take, that real families take, that real children take. And if you amplify those voices, what we have seen is when we amplify those voices, when we, in HLC, we talk about how, Cambridge and NIOS curriculum, the conversation always happens together, right? So that it's not about the differences that they have, but it's about the possibilities that exist in front of you. In Beyond It, because it's learner determined, you're dissolving the problem, the curriculum choice. So you don't come into an IGCSE school or an NIOS school, right? We are not a school, by the way. So you come into this space because you care for your child. And then you walk with us in that journey, you discover what is right, and then you take that choice. But it's a very intentional process, and it will have to be done step by step. There's no working.
So nice to know that these all these boards and options are on par. And it's also really nice to know that many of the options are now available to people, which earlier they were just not available. Right, having an option is itself like a privilege. What are the kind of parents, for example, like if there is a parent, what's the kind of parent uh, that can maximally benefit from this? Who is that parent who's seeking for this, right?
So, very interesting observation. Our beyond eight parents are families in which the woman's voice is loud enough. Women are decision makers. We are seeing this trend. I would not want to, just say that this is what it is, but this is what we are observing. We are seeing families in which women have a voice, are the families that are choosing an alternative to schooling option like Beyond It. We are also seeing that in families where they care for the child and they are curating experiences that are led by the child, are choosing a space like Beyond It. And they are people who understand that schooling does not work. They understand that these preconceived notions of success and the pathways to success don't exist anymore. And they are the ones, they are the risk takers, they are the people who care for their children, they are families in which the woman's voice matters, are the ones who are seeking us as of now.
And how are the children who are coming? What have you noticed about the children? What have you noticed about the students that they're coming in? What are the characteristics? What are the personalities? What are the likes? What are the dislikes? What are their dreams, their passions? What are the things that they got disenchanted with? What are the things that they have found meaning and purpose here at Beyond It?
Children are children everywhere. Every child has a dream, every child has an aspiration, every child is curious, every child is creative, and every child wants to do the things they love, but their voices are not heard. At Beyond 8, the children are lucky enough because their parents and their families are listening to them, and hence they showcase autonomy, they showcase their competence, and they also realize that relatedness is very important in the ecosystem. They are very open to different experiences which are not just academic. So they know that while academic is one aspect of their learning journey, they know that they need to look ahead, they need to look at the future, they need to think about. We have children who will tell us, Auntie, I want this kind of internship which has this in place. One would think, how does she even know? But if you don't ask, you will never know. We generally don't ask, right? And but also there were experiences in which there was a child who said that I'm looking for this opportunity. It needs to have ABC. And when we wrote to an industry expert about that, the industry expert said, "Oh, sorry, we don't take people who are so specific. We want people who will actually want to do it all and learn it rather than being bucketed at the front." Those kind of experiences that the child is going through, the learnings that the child is going through, is completely, you won't get that inside a setting where you're only focusing on academics. We have a child who went for a law internship and hated it and then choose differently. And there are children who do an internship and love it and then want to continue doing it. So it just expands their minds. There is a very beautiful saying where the adage goes, you do differently in the company of those who act differently. And these are the children who are seeing their peers, their seniors, look at internships, look at different college pathways, choices. The kind of conversations you're having are academic because you need to also get past your grades and all of that. But there is so much more. So this is like a plus situation, right? Where children, the variety of conversations they are having is so, it's myriad in its in its types of conversations.
I love what you're saying, and the vision that you paint is something that my friend Aditya in Gujarat would love to hear. He has a 5-year-old daughter, and he says, Willie, it's so strange. A child could go through 15 years of school and college, and then another 4 years or 6 years of professional education. And when that child or that young adult joins a job or fills up a job application form, there are two buckets that he needs to choose: experience or fresher. And when you ask the company, what is the definition of fresher? The company says somebody with 0 years of experience. So my friend Aditya was saying, after 20 years of formal education, I still have to put 0 years of experience. It's almost like saying that every organization says you've learned nothing in school. So he was saying, my vision for my child is, can I have my daughter in a school or in a program that when that child comes out of 10th standard or 12th standard can say, I've got 12 years of experience, ready for the world, ready to take on a journey of creation and self mastery. And I think Beyond Eight is doing exactly that. I'm sure that all of your parents feel that way about you. But one final closing comment or reaction from you is around teachers, because everybody in India feel that if it's an administrative issue, go to the principal. If it's a teaching learning issue, go to the class teacher. So everybody knows that the role and impact that a class teacher has in the community, in the learning community, is phenomenal and cannot be underestimated by any way. How do you even approach the teacher resource problem at Beyond Eight or anywhere?
I'm so happy that you asked this because teachers are the closest to our hearts. In the Beyond Eight's vision, we say with the utmost amount of empathy, compassionate empathy for our people. Our people are our teachers. So you do right by your teachers, and automatically they are going to be doing right by your children. But let's talk about teachers, right? We are talking about millennial parents, we are talking about alpha generation learners. Teachers are also changing. Teachers that we are seeing both in Beyond 8 and in HLC are teachers who are looking at an inspiring vision. They are not just looking for a school, they are looking for a space in which they can feel compassionate empathy. They are looking for a space that is inspiring. They are also looking for spaces that are flexible, that are that where they have the agency and autonomy. So do you see that shift? It's not that the children alone are looking for agency and autonomy, but teachers want a say in the things that they do. So our teachers keep saying that because of the freedom that is given to them to do the things they do inside a classroom or outside as well is something that keeps them motivated and inspired. Another aspect of it is they are knowledge workers. They gain immense amount of satisfaction and motivation when they keep learning something new. So in terms of teacher training, professional development, when you make them resonate with all the future of learning that is happening, rather than just limiting it to an advice that you give them, that's something that they appreciate. And at the end of it, we also need to remember that we have to plan for the churn. You are not going to have these teachers being in your organization for 30, 35 years like yesteryears. They are themselves seeking new paths. They are seeking new learning opportunities. They are continuous learners themselves. But they are also willing to give it their all when they are in an ecosystem. Respecting that and planning for that churn is actually going to help you attract more and more young and brilliant minds into your space. So to say that, oh my God, teachers today, they don't stay, they want to go somewhere, they are wanting flexibility, they are wanting, to be liberated and all of that. I think, guess what? Have a program design that is including all of those aspects in which you're not just inclusive with children, but you're also inclusive with teachers. And I think that's what is helping us. We are planning for the churn. We encourage teachers to learn. We encourage teachers to try new things. We encourage them to start new initiatives. And that's the joy that they get in being in a space like Beyond 8 or HLC.
That's brilliant. Finding inspired teachers and putting them on a journey of self mastery and self discovery. That's when a student walks up to a teacher and says, "You've been my greatest teacher," and the teacher looks back and with utmost humility says, "You've been, my greatest teacher." In many ways, I had a conversation with the principal yesterday. Yesterday, I was at an event and I spoke to a principal and I said, "Where were you working?" And she said she was working in this institute. I don't want to say anything more than that. And she was like, that's fairly big, huh? More than 100 schools across the country. And I was like, you spent 7, 8 years working there. What is the one thing that you thought uh, just didn't make sense? You know what she told me?
Thinking.
Well, she said there is a head office team, corporate office team, which sends out an SOP of how every teacher and principal should behave when any member of the head office comes to the school. And that involves every teacher standing in a line in 2 rows in the pathway of the school. That involves a child who has written one poem about the school. That involves one garland of minimum this many flowers and this many things. It involves lunch with these many items. It involves one room. It involves AC at a particular temperature. It involves the principal wearing one cotton sari waiting there. Elaborate design and SOP created just so that a member of the corporate office, when they visit the school, this is how it should be. What do you think a teacher feels? Does a teacher feel autonomy, leadership, personal discovery? And I only had one question in my mind. If the teachers are down, who's in the classroom? But
That's the, I think,
you don't have to respond to that. But I'm,
no,
I'm just saying
that's
that's the reality.
industrialization at its peak, and draconian rules and regulations at its peak. So I don't want to end on a negative note. So
Of
we
course we
have
should.
to have a very, positive note. I think, in terms of parents, again, parenting, right? Um, when I was a child, and this is what every parent will say, so I'm wearing my parent hat. So when I was a child, I would go to this kabadwala who would have all of these books in, English, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Gujarati, all of these books. And he had a rule, okay? So, not a rule, that was his business, right? So he would say, if you borrow a book and you return it, if you borrow a book, it will be 1 rupee. But if you return it after, in half an hour, it will be 50 paise.
Oh,
So I will stand there during my, entire vacation period, and I'll read one book, finish it in half an hour, 50 paise. Then again, you get your 50 paise back. So this was the kind of thing that I would do at that time. And I'm sure every parent would have had an inspiring story to tell about the struggles they have had, about where they were and how they came from. And then they would impose those struggles on their children. They will say that I did this, I did that, now you have to do this. My humble request is that the world then was different. The context then was different. The situation was different. Children were different. People were different. Just like how that parent has actually transformed to be the people they are today. They are very different from their own parents. They're doing jobs that are very different from their parents. They're bringing up their children, which may be different from how their parents brought them up. I would just tell them to be a little gentle on children, just like how we say schools have to be gentle and teachers have to be gentle. I would also request parents to be gentle, not to impose belief systems that they have gone through and want children to suffer through those, rather than say that now I'm here. And if this is your starting point, how do we take the conversation forward and how do we inspire you and motivate you? Share that power with you. How do I share power and how I show you the world of possibilities? If those are the conversations that we have, we will have a generation of children with better self worth, emotional well being, mental well being, and that will make for a more calmer and peaceful world.
and that is a world that I want my children to live in. That is the world that I want uh, my children to live in and thrive, and that is the world that I want my own children to contribute to, and that is the world that I want my children to say, "This is normal." That's what I want to do. Thank you so much, Raaji Naveen, for being with us at the Will Talks podcast. And I also want to share that if you are in Chennai or if you are in Bangalore, and if you really want a different experience for your child, because you really know that your child deserves it, you really know that you tried the rest. Now you should try other things as well. You know what works and what what doesn't. I think that you should get in touch with Raaji Naveen on LinkedIn. She's very active on LinkedIn, and they have a beautiful, beautiful home center here at Koramangala. Feel free to walk in, spend time, talk to them, and you never know. Maybe this is just what your child needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Willie. It is always, I don't know how much time we spent, but it just feels never enough. I think lovely questions took me back to down memory lane. And also, I think I feel so refreshed and positive about what we have going forward. Thank you so much for doing this for us.
Thank you.